Okay, everyone. Good morning. Tuesday morning, the morning briefing from the Celtic Way with me, Hamish. We've got Ryan on as well. Just saying, Ryan, they're all fancying a wee bit of time off this week, a wee bit of time away from us. Guess it's international break, a decent time to do that. I'm going to be heading off tomorrow and Thursday as well, Ryan. So I don't know who's going to help you out in those videos, but we'll find a way. It might just be yourself, just waffling about Odin Tiago home or something like
Nothing,
that.
nothing changes if that's the case. No, might
How
be
are
talking
you?
about Odin Tiago home. I'm all good. Thanks. How are you, Hamish? All good.
Yes, can't complain. We've got stuff to talk about. There's always stuff to talk about. The comments are already firing away. I can see the usual names: Tam and Hazel and Les. McLaughlin P is always there. You're always there, everyone. So really appreciate it. And as I say, there's things to talk about. Maybe have a wee chat about the Sligo Rovers game later on, because as much as it's a friendly match, I've heard that the showgrounds, which is where they play, is sold out for the game. So it's quite a big deal for them. And you know what it's like during the international break. Any chance to see Celtic play is one worth taking, and the manager's going to be there. Brendan Rodgers is on the promotional material, and he said, I think you'd have been there on Sunday when he said he was going to, be at the game. He's going to take charge of the team. Don't know exactly what kind of team we'll see, but it's good to have Celtic and Celtic women have a big game tonight as well in the UEFA Champions League. Their opener against 20. So it's there's stuff to talk about. We can keep discussing the Ross County stuff as well. So there's stuff happening, right?
Yeah, there's definitely always things still happening in the background, even though it's an international break at this point, and it's a good chance to recharge the batteries. I know for some players that haven't had a lot of game time, they'll use tomorrow as a beneficial exercise against Sligo Rovers. Brilliant to see that it's a complete sellout tomorrow night. Historical place. That's where Brother Wilfred was from before making the journey over to
Ah,
Glasgow back in the 1860s. That was online. I did read that the other day, so it's not as if I've just plucked that out of thin air. I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for not being online. But yeah, you've got to embrace these traditions and embrace where Celtic are from as well. As much as they're a Celtic club, they're deep in Irish history as well. The two go hand in hand, and it's absolutely brilliant to see. There's a very, very sizable Irish fan base over there, both in Northern Ireland and in the south. So it's always good to go and see them and bring Celtic over to those fans, just as much as it's good for Celtic to go over to America in pre-season and see the
hmm.
fans that are over there, because
Australia, maybe,
it
I
just
don't
goes to,
know.
yeah, Australia, Japan,
That's
South Korea was supposed to be as well before that was cancelled. The Japanese tour was beneficial too, so it just shows you how big a club Celtic are, even in the international break. And seeing some of those players, although it won't be like the first team players or the players that are playing week in week out every week, but still be players that they recognise, and some of the stars of the future, you would hope, as well, in the B team that are going to be given an opportunity to work under Brendan Rodgers, even for those 90 minutes. It's a beneficial game for them, because it's an opportunity to show what they can do to the first team manager. So you're looking at the likes of Josh Deddy, Daniel Cummins, and other players like that, maybe players that haven't had a lot of game time, such as Odin Tiago Home, etc.
Francis
Give them a
Turley,
chance.
we'll see him.
Francis Turley, yeah, absolutely. If he's not already on international break with Northern Ireland's under 21s,
Maybe, might be.
this is the problem, because Celtic have got
Yeah.
so many good youngsters as well that they're applying their trade for the under 21s team and under 19s team for their respective nations. So it's a beneficial game for them, for the players that haven't made the trip to their international setup. But it's great for the fans. I think the most important thing is the fans get to see a version of Celtic too in Ireland, which is brilliant to see.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of looking at the squad earlier and trying to work out who would feature. Like, you probably see like Stephen Welsh playing the game. Try to work out if Odin Home would be away with Norway's 21s. I don't think he was last time. I'm not sure if he's too old for them now, or if it's the fact he's not featuring at all for us. Yang, maybe if he's not away with South Korea's young team. But there's a few other players. It'll be interesting to see exactly the squad you have over there. I don't think you'll see Greg Taylor, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Alistair Johnson at all. The chat is that hardly surprising that Greg Taylor's going to be out of the Scotland squad. I think Jack McKenzie.
Yep, from
Coming
Aberdeen.
in,
He's overtaken.
Aberdeen's Jack McKenzie playing very well. Apparently, did you see the flick he had on Sunday against Hearts? If anyone in Pyan Bovril, I think it was Pyan Bovril tweeted about it today or yesterday, and it was a hell of a flick. Like it was great stuff.
Yeah, I've not seen it, or I maybe have seen it in the highlights. Did it lead to a goal? Did it lead to? Was it an assist for a goal in the game?
I think I didn't watch it all the way, but it was a nice wee kind of the ball came to him in the halfway line, and he just flicked it with the back of his heel. So that was very neat. But he's meant to be doing quite well. But Taylor out of the squad. What was the chat from Rogers on Greg Taylor?
It's a wait and see with Greg Taylor, he was saying after the game in terms of being back for the Aberdeen game and the Atalanta game too. So I think maybe Valle was playing due to necessity against Ross County, but also with an eye for the games ahead. You know, I would want him to be playing against Aberdeen now if Greg Taylor isn't fit. There's no point in moving players to formations or positions that they're not comfortable with. If Valle's fit and he comes back from, I'm not sure if he's with the Spain unders. I think he might stay with Celtic. He might have a bit of time off, to be honest, but he might even play tomorrow. That wouldn't be the most surprising thing if he was to turn out tomorrow. But I want him to be starting against Aberdeen if Greg Taylor's not fit. Basically, long story short, I think he played really well on Sunday. Just positionally in the first half, he looked a wee bit off, but once he get used to the game, I think once Brendan Rodgers had a word with him at half time, he seemed to really dial it in and play well in the second half. A couple of moments, as I was speaking about yesterday, where he sort of turned the corner but used it with a bit of pace and power. And I was like, that's not what Greg Taylor does. He's a very different player, but to see Alex Bailly do that is promising, and you're starting to see more of the reason why Barcelona rate him so highly and why he was involved in the pre-season. The more games he gets, the better he'll get for Celtic, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play again, maybe against Aberdeen a week on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the way you're looking at it at the moment, that's a game he'll probably start, because it seems like Greg Taylor isn't going to be ready for the Aberdeen game. Just kind of reading between the lines and listening to what Rodgers had to say. So yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great to get to a stage where we have a real decision to make it left back between Valle and Taylor, because I think they're different kinds of players. So yeah, no, I thought he was good on Sunday. As I said yesterday, his final ball at times I think he can work on, but I'm sure he will. John asking us who from the squad is off in international duty. John, I've not actually had a full look at the squad because I've kind of been away the past couple of days. I know that obviously Alistair Johnson isn't away. Carter Vickers isn't away. Greg Taylor's not going to be away. You would assume that the normal Kyogo's not away, is he? Is Hatate and Maeda with
Hatate and Maeda
Japan again? It'll be the same as the last break. So you'll have Ida and Scales will be away with Ireland, and you'll have I'm assuming Ralston's in the Scotland squad, is he? I'm pretty sure he would be. And Engels here away with Belgium again.
Yes, yeah. There was a picture on Instagram yesterday of him joining up with the Belgium national team. So good for him. Good for him to maybe
Bernardo
break from
Portugal's 21s.
He's a captain still, and he's still of the age that he can play for the Portugal under 21. So I think that's beneficial for him. That he's in and out of the squad, Bernardo, at this point in time, because there's certain games that suit him better than others, and some games that Rodgers wants to bring him off the bench for the last half an hour, inject a bit of pace when it was required against Ross County. Thought he was good as well. Look, McCowan will get all the headlines for how good his performance was, but I thought Bernardo was good beside him, and the two seem to play well together in McCowan and Bernardo. They understand the spacing and where to go, so that's beneficial, and that will be beneficial going forward for Celtic. But for him to get that game time with Portugal is beneficial too, because he's going to be playing alongside some of the best young talents in the world. Portugal are a conveyor belt of young talent. They bring in so many players. Granted, a lot of those players that are maybe under 21 are already playing for Portugal at this point in time, because they like to integrate their new players really, really quickly. Out with Cristiano Ronaldo, who plays even though he's 39, 40 years old. All of the outfield players apart from that, you can get these young players coming through from Porto, Sporting, Benfica, etc., along with some of the stars such as Bernardo Silva and Rafael Leao. They've got a great squad. Bernardo's trying his best to break into that senior setup. Jota tried to do that as well. He was close. He was in the provisional squad for the World Cup, wasn't he, before not making it in 2022. So yeah, that's his target probably long term. But it's a great conveyor belt at Portugal, and it's beneficial for him to be playing games in international break because he's not an automatic starter at this point in time. No fault of his own. It's just due to the fact that Celtic have got such a strong midfield that they can chop and change.
Henry McClarson asking, is the game tomorrow televised? I believe League of Ireland television, TV have it. I think €10 you're talking for a match pass. So, if you're at a loss for something to do that, that may well be something you want to take up tomorrow night. It's not tonight, the game. Hazel wondering just about Arne Engels. Did the Dortmund game affect Engels? He's not kicked a ball since. Yeah, well, it's been one game, hasn't it? He really wasn't great against Ross County. He was poor. I don't think there's any reason to panic at all with Arne Engels. He's clearly shown us a lot so far. I've been really, really impressed with him coming in as a pretty young player, our most expensive signing ever, and coming into some really big games. He made his debut in the Derby. His first start was at home to Hearts. That's a big game for us. A couple of days later, he started in the UEFA Champions League. Dortmund away, and it's really only that Dortmund test that he's failed so far, and he was poor against Dortmund, but the whole team they looked a bit lost. So that's something he has to work on. Atalanta away, I'm expecting to see a far bigger showing, but I don't think it's a case of him being affected. I just think Celtic went into County the weekend, and it was just a number of factors. I think the fact that they were so well organised, it's quite a tight pitch there. I mean, you look back at the games we have up there over the past few years, and it's rarely very easy up there. There's the occasional game, like last year we won 3-0, but even that game was kind of tight going into the closing stages, and we've had a lot of late winners up there. You rarely go up there and absolutely batter them 4 or 5-0. Because it's a kind of challenging place to go, and obviously off the back of Europe. And I just think Engels was probably affected a bit by that, like everyone else. I think their confidence would have probably taken a bit of a knock, but I don't think there's anything to worry about with Arne Engels. I think the guy's an absolute star in the making, and I think he's going to be a star for us going forward, and he's definitely would be in my team for Aberdeen, Ryan. And maybe we can chat about our kind of midfield for Aberdeen, because there's a lot of chat about Luke McCowan and whether he deserves a start in that game.
There definitely is, and it's all merited because it was a great performance from Luke McCowan. I love what he brings to this team. I love the drive, the know-how, because he's played in the domestic league of Scottish football before. He's played in the lower leagues as well, played in the Championship for Ayr United back in the day. So he's been in Dundee as well. He's got the know-how of Scottish football, and he just understands what is required when he comes on the pitch. He keeps the tempo up, and he also accelerates the tempo too, because he got Celtic going, I think. But there was no worries when Luke McCowan came onto the pitch on Sunday, because everybody knows what he's going to bring to the team, and he's going to bring positivity, a good first touch. His first touch is always going forward as well. He's a positive player, and he wants to get on the front foot. He's a guy that, I think he probably wants to hear the end of I'm a Celtic fan playing for Celtic. He wants to do his talking on the pitch, and he certainly did that against Ross County. So he deserved the plaudits at full time when he got that from the supporters. It's good that they've got a Celtic fan in the ranks that knows what it's like to support the team and knows the standards. But he's more than that. He's a good football player, and he showed that. In terms of Engels, I'm not worried about him whatsoever. He's still acclimatising to Scottish football and Celtic in general. Just because it worked out instantly doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time. He's going to have a 7 out of 10, an 8 out of 10. And before the Dortmund game, every game you could have said with Engels was an 7 or an 8, sometimes even a 9 out of 10. Yes, the standards dropped ever so slightly, but I'm not concerned about him whatsoever. He's got enough credit in the bank after his opening couple of games to know that there's definitely a player there, and he's one of the first names on the team sheet for me against Aberdeen, which is a massive game. I'm really looking forward to it, and there's a lot of chat already about why it's not on the TV. And it is disappointing that it's not on the TV, but I guess it's a bonus for the people that are maybe abroad and going to the game. It's such a massive game, arguably the biggest in Britain. I had a look at the other fixtures. It's the biggest game in Britain that day between Celtic and Aberdeen in terms of fixture and magnitude. All eyes will be on Celtic Park. Radios will be on. People will be trying to watch through various means. People will be online looking for the game. I just think it's so exciting. And a 3:00 game, the excitement builds for itself. Nobody needs to talk it up. Both teams are on 21 points. Teams have had brilliant starts to the season. New manager bounce for Aberdeen. Celtic have that. They don't have that awkwardness anymore with Brendan Rodgers, and there's a good start there too. So that Saturday's going to be so exciting. It's a week on Saturday, but I'm already hoping that it goes quicker and quicker because I'm looking forward to sampling that atmosphere at 3:00 on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be a belter. So what is your midfield for that game? For me, McGregor and Engels, and then I think you've got a choice to make out of 3 players. Trying to think what way the manager will go. I don't know if would he start.
For me, it would be
McCowan?
Bernardo. For me,
Okay.
it would be Bernardo, to be honest.
Based
I like what
on
he brings. But then you think about Hatate as well, and you can't really take form into it because it's just coming off the back of an international break. I think it all depends on how many games Bernardo plays, but I do like what he gives you in the middle of the park. Talk about it all the time. His dig, his drive, his tenaciousness in the middle of the park. Also, he's a goal threat. He's got an absolute rocket from outside the box that he's shown on a couple of occasions, even this season, which is good to see. But regardless of who Brendan Rodgers goes with, he knows that he's got that player to start, and he's got a couple of players off the bench that can set the tempo and change that tempo if it's maybe not going the way that he wants it to. It's a squad game. We talked about that at the start of the season, and it's definitely becoming true. It was a squad game at the weekend. That's why Celtic won, because they had players that could come on and change the game. Ross County really couldn't do that, and Celtic's embarrassment of riches in the middle of the park was a large reason why they won that game. I know it came from the wide areas, from Johnson to Kuhn, but in order to get that chance, it's McCowan that wins the somewhat soft free kick, but he wins it in that area and wants the ball, and that starts the play that ends up in the goal for Nicholas Kuhn. So, yeah, regardless of who he goes for, they're going to be a quality addition to the squad. But at this moment, I would play Bernardo just because I think he brings that wee bit of dig, and Aberdeen have got plenty of dig at the moment in the middle of the park, so you need someone to combat that rather than play against it.
Okay. Evil Genius going McGregor, Hatate, Engels. Thomas has McCowan in, can't afford Hatate to play a single second. I wouldn't be massively unhappy with any of those. I think McGregor and Engels certainly have to be in that midfield.
Yeah.
I think the good thing is those other three players, bring something to the party. I know Hatate's getting a lot of criticism, but when Hatate's on form, which he has been, at times this season in a few games, which I'll admit isn't enough, but he's clearly still got the ability to be a huge player for us, Hatate. So hopefully he can really kick on when we come back. I don't know. I might be edging towards Hatate for that game, to be honest. But as I say, I think it's pretty tight. Like if McCowan was to start, it would be deserved. Bernardo's to start, it would be deserved. And obviously, I think for me, I would play Hatate just because he has that ability to unlock defences. Be interesting to see what Aberdeen's approach is in that game as well. Whether they're coming looking for a draw, I think they would certainly take a draw. But are they going to come out and play like Aberdeen usually do and be quite defensive? Derek McInnes days, or are they going to come and have a bit of a go? Have you seen much of Aberdeen this season?
Yeah. I watched them at the start of the season. I remember there was a weekend where there was about 4 or 5 games that were televised on the television on Premier Sports. There was that Monday night football between them and St Johnstone, I believe, and they scored a late winner in that game, or they scored a late-ish goal. I remember Miovski was playing. That was one of his last games. I was kind of watching him in the background because I was like, are Celtic going to sign him? Are they not going to sign him? They eventually went to Vladimir. Miovski went to Girona. He's not really getting a game for Girona at this moment in time. So, time will tell if that move will turn out to be a success or not for him. Could maybe even make his way back to Scottish football before too long. I've watched them, and I thought both teams were good in that game. St Johnstone at the start of the season, both teams went for a go, and it was a real good game. But from what I've watched of Aberdeen, they're not winning games convincingly. They're grinding out results, and that can come in two ways. That can come with two sort of conclusions. Either they're doing well and winning games and grinding out results, winning ugly, and then you're thinking, well, how long can they keep that up? How long can they grind out results and concede 1 or 2 goals a game without dropping points? Because they've not dropped a single point this season. They've won every single game that they've played. It's helpful that they got ahead of steam with the League Cup, playing against the likes of Queen of the South and Airdrie, I believe. So they were beating these teams and really using that as a mini pre-season before bringing that into the main season. and continuing that good form. From what I've watched, scoring some good goals. I mean, the goal that they scored at the weekend, the guy's name escapes me, but I know that it was Duke that played the assist. One of the players dummied the ball,
Oh, yeah.
and then it was a great finish. The boy that was previously, or he's still at Man City, or he's part of the City group. I think he's a Croatian midfielder or something like that. But it was a really good finish from him. And he's a
The
player
guy who scored the winner,
yeah.
Palaversa.
Palaversa. I think he's like a defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder. He's definitely a midfielder of some sort. I should maybe clue up a wee bit more on Aberdeen. I'll do that over the next week while we prepare to play them.
The
But
thing is, like, it's a good point you make though, because like it's a huge game this, but I don't know if anyone else feels the same. But like I feel as if Aberdeen are they've been going along doing their business, and they're just like us. They're winning every domestic game they play, but I'm not really seeing much of them really. Like I've not watched a single Aberdeen game. I feel like they've not been on TV much. They've not played us yet. They've not played Rangers yet. I think Hearts was like their first kind of real big team they've played this season. So I feel as if like I've been hearing about Aberdeen, but I'm actually going to be quite interested over the next 10 days ahead of the game to actually find out a bit about the way they're playing and Jimmy Thelin and the job that he's done, because it seems like he's doing something pretty special there. But equally, no one's really talking about them as potential title winners, which obviously Celtic fans we feel is very unlikely because of how good we are domestically. But even like the BBC and all of that stuff, you would normally hear them maybe building teams like this up, or can they win the league? I've not heard any of that. Maybe it'll ramp up a bit ahead of the game. I don't know.
yeah, I'm having a wee look at their team that started against Hearts at the weekend. Kevin Nisbet, that's a household name in Scottish football. Great striker for Hibs back in the day. Went down to Millwall, didn't really work out for him. Sort of off-field issues curtailed his progress at Millwall. So he's out on loan at Aberdeen. He's a known striker. You've got Jamie McGrath, who's known. He's played for Hibs, he's played for St Mirren, now he's playing for Aberdeen, Dundee United too. You've got Leighton Clarkson, who plays in the 10 position. Plus, and I think this is important, that Jimmy Thelin has brought in a player that he knows as well, sort of like an on-field teacher, in Helta Nielsen, who's playing as the number 6, who is number 6 for Aberdeen as well. He plays alongside Graham Shinney. They play a 4-2-3-1. So having that guy, he's a bit older. He's like, 34, 35 years old, but he's a bit like an on-field manager. So he is drilling in what Jimmy Thelin expects from the other players, and he's telling them what to do. So having that on-field teacher is really, really important. And I think that was helpful with Ange Postecoglou when he had somebody like Tom Rogic, who he worked with in Australia, and then after that Arne Engels, and then you've got the Japanese players that knew exactly how to play Ange Postecoglou's football, because he played alongside him. Also, Daizamida played for Yokohama too. So having those players that can give those messages on the park is always important. They've got experienced players such as Graham Shinney as well. You look at their bench, they've got Duke that was coming on, Sockler who's been playing, Shaden Morris who's been playing as well. So they've got players that can hurt Celtic and can really make a difference in the team, both in the starting lineup and on the bench. I think the reason why nobody's talking about them at the moment in terms of title contenders is because they've not played a Celtic or Rangers yet. The fixture list has been quite kind to them in that regard, that they've not had that game against Celtic or Rangers away from home or at Pittodrie that maybe would curtail those thoughts. So this has just been allowed to go on and on and on. This is the first real acid test a week on Saturday for Jimmy Thelin's side against Celtic. Let's see how good they are against everybody I think would say are the favourites for the title this season, especially with the way the league table is at the moment. Let's see how good they are. If they were to get a win at Celtic Park, and I'm desperately hoping that's not the case, then I think everybody would start to take them really seriously. But like I said, if Celtic win, then there's not really a story there. It's Celtic are expected to win at home against Aberdeen. That's the way it's been for years on end. So yeah, an interesting one, but I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about Aberdeen ahead of this game, and then seeing how that all takes place at Celtic Park.
I think it's going to be a really hyped match by the time we get to it. I think the night before we'll maybe have a bit of nerves. I don't know. I could be wrong there, but I don't know if you get nerves for any Celtic game. But generally domestically I don't, but I think, the night before you might be kind of thinking, well, this feels like a big game. I think someone was pointing out, Evil Genius pointing out they've won 13 games in a row, which is a hell of a record. If you take it back to last season, since we beat them in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, and that was in penalties, they played 18 competitive matches. They won 17 of the 18, and the other was a draw where they had 10 men away to Ross County, and they were ahead in that game as well when it was 11v11. So 17 wins out of 18. And I know some of those games are against lower league opposition in the League Cup and all of that stuff, but like winning is winning. It's a hell of a habit to have. So like I'm just interested to see if they come to Celtic Park and if it feels like they're a proper team, and it feels like when you're on a run like that, you must have the belief you can win any game, even if they're going to come to Celtic Park and clearly they're going to be underdogs. They're surely going to be coming to Celtic Park thinking they can win, and hopefully that makes for a good game. And they are talking about the TV stuff. You brought it up earlier, Ryan. I know this is again something that's kind of got people a bit heated online, and depends whether you're a season ticket or not. I'm obviously not a season ticket holder at the moment, and it's a bit different because I can't go to games and I get all that stuff. But I think personally it's quite a cool thing for season ticket holders that they kind of they get to go to this game and kind of have the exclusive rights to watch it live. And obviously people will find a way to see it, legal or otherwise. But I think it's going to be a crack. I love the fact it's a 3:00 game. See if that was like a Saturday 12:30 game, it would take a little bit of it away for me. The peak would be a night game. If it was a night game, like a Wednesday night or something, that'd be amazing. I think we've got Pittodrie coming up on a Wednesday night, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we do. We've also got Tynecastle as well on a Saturday night. So, these night games, I like the night game. Night games always take care of themselves. If there was one time a day that I would want Celtic to play, it's at night. I love night games. Night under the floodlights. You've got the buzz about a night game. You get everybody feeling it. They've maybe had a day at work and then they go and travel to the game. It adds to. I know it's the start of the workday for me because I'd be covering it, but there's always an excitement about night games because they just remind me of the Champions League. I get excited over watching Champions League games at Celtic Park. That's my main excitement in a season, seeing all the big teams come to Celtic Park and Celtic really testing themselves. But even domestic games going away to Aberdeen, I mean, one of the best moments of last season for me was watching Celtic win the league at Rugby Park against Kilmarnock, which was just a great occasion. I mean, Tony and I got home at a ridiculous time, but you didn't care because it was a night game and everybody was buzzing at the end of the game, and it was the end of the league. Celtic had finally wrapped it up. But these games, Pittodrie, Tynecastle, they're a bit of a nightmare to get to, a bit of a nightmare to get home. But that in between when you're covering the game is absolutely brilliant, and I think it makes for a good game. But 3:00 has its benefits too. Everybody will be checking their phones. Anybody that's not watching the game will be checking their phones to check the score of the game that's happening. People will be finding means of watching it, as you quite rightly said. I'm sure that'll be the case. And yeah, as much as it's disappointing it's not in the TV, because I think it would be a great advert for Scottish football, because I do believe that Aberdeen will go to Celtic Park and really go for it. It does add that additional benefit to the season ticket holders that are going to the game, 3:00, and they've got the exclusive right to watch it almost. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. I'm already looking forward to it. So it's over a week away, but I think all the storylines are beginning to start, and then you'll hear from the managers, and it's very exciting. It's good to have that sort of different force in Scottish football as well, and it's almost as if Aberdeen have been like a sleeping giant that have just awoken, and that's good.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. I can't wait for it. What else is happening in international break-wise? Any games you're looking forward to see? Any Celtic players playing in big games?
I believe that Gibraltar playing San Marino. I know that's nothing to do with Celtic or that at all, but those games like that are wild. I think that's on Thursday night. In terms of Scotland play, is it Croatia? And then who's the other team that they play? Portugal. And they play Portugal again. Wow. I've kind of turned off towards international football. You get it with the major tournaments. It's exciting, but I think there's a bit of a hangover off the back of that. You had the Euros. There was an excitement, that initial excitement. Then Scotland started playing in the Euros and they didn't play so well. And then since then, it's felt like a bit of a hangover of international football. I'll probably watch the Scotland game when it's on, but at the same time, I'm using it as a break to recharge the batteries ahead of what's going to be a really busy schedule. I know there's one international break, and then you're pretty much run through until March, aren't you, for the next one? So I'm looking forward to the end of that next international break. Then it's
Yeah,
all Celtic through the festive period.
no
Festive period's
winter
brilliant
break
for
this year
football.
either.
No, I know. So that's where the squad's going to be important as well. You're going to get Luke McCowan is going to get starts as the season goes on. I don't think he needs to worry about not getting in the team. There will be games in which he's preferred both at home and away from home. I look at those maybe 2 games in 3 days and thinking, Luke McCowan can maybe start one of them the Saturday or the Sunday after a Champions League game or after a league game during the week. Keep the tempo up. You could maybe even swap him and Cal McGregor out the team. Although I don't want him out the team that much, you can mix and match them, and he'll still bring you that tempo and that Scottish base in the midfield to go with the foreign talents that you've got. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the rest of this season. Enjoying the break for what it is just now, but we know that Celtic are going to come back to their biggest game of the season so far, which is against Aberdeen. And that's credit to Aberdeen, and they deserve all the credit in the world that is Celtic's biggest game thus far because of how well they've started.
Yeah. And should mention as well, as I said at the top of the show, big night tonight for Celtic women. First game in the Champions League group stage, and it is a group stage. Their tournament hasn't moved to this new format, so it's an old-fashioned group. And looking at the group that we have, FC20, who we play tonight, Real Madrid and Chelsea. It certainly seems like a home game, which it is tonight against FC20, is going to be a best opportunity of getting points. From the sounds of things, though, it may be a tall order even in tonight's game. I think the team might struggle in this group stage just because you're going up the levels dramatically. I mean, Chelsea have some unbelievable players. People know about. I mean, Sam Kerr, who's obviously huge
Sam
here,
Kerr's a
and
big one. Yeah, she's a massive figure in Australia.
Yeah, and Erin Cuthbert, obviously, who we all know who she supports, but she's obviously one of the best players Scotland's produced in recent years, and there's a number of other Lauren James who people know as well. So I mean, that's who Celtic will be up
James'
against.
sister, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
Real Madrid will clearly be a good team as well. But the game tonight's against FC20 seems like the team's best opportunity to get a result, but from what I'm hearing, it may even be tough tonight. So that game's on an 8 p.m. kickoff, Ryan. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they can get a positive result. Even a draw, I think, would be a positive start because it's an unbelievable step up for them.
Yeah, it'll be akin to what the teams in Scotland maybe face when they face Celtic in the SWPL. But it's all about exposure at that level, and the only way you can improve is by continually getting to that stage and by helping the team go forward and push forward. I've got everything crossed for Elena Sadiku and the players tonight. It's a historic moment for them, the first time in the group stages of the Champions League. I hope they go and make a good account of themselves, regardless of what the score is going to be. Obviously, women's football is progressing at a quick rate. You'll probably see that with Chelsea on the night because Chelsea are one of the best teams in the in the English Women's League. And Real Madrid, obviously, they go up against Barcelona in their own domestic league. And Barcelona are widely known as one of the best women's teams in the world at this point in time. I think they broke the record for the women's attendance record at the Nou Camp a couple of years ago. So it's clearly a game that's improving, and that's great. It's great for exposure because it's all about representation as well. There's so many, as much as there's so many men Celtic supporters, there's loads of women Celtic supporters that will have their heroes now in the women's team, and I love to see that. Any Celtic is good for me, and I hope that they do well tonight against 20. It's a tall order, but I'll be tuning in to see if they can do the business.
DAZN are showing the game. They have the rights for the Women's Champions League. I believe you can watch. I don't think it even costs you to make an account. So if people want to watch, that's where they can get it. No chill pill. It's Aberdeen at Celtic Park first in the league, and then Hampden probably 2 weeks later, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward to that game as well. That's going to be great.
Brilliant. 5:30. Gordon asking how many fans Aberdeen will bring to this game. Assuming you're talking about the next one. As I said yesterday, I think they'll probably only have about 1,000 tickets for the game, because that's what Celtic give every team at this stage, apart from our rivals. We'll see how that goes later on in the season. But I think Aberdeen could probably shift 3,000-4,000 tickets pretty comfortably for this game. And in a way, it's kind of a shame that there isn't that amazing atmosphere, because I think it would be even more amazing to have a big Aberdeen support there. But obviously, they don't want to give us a big allocation for Pittodrie, so why should we give them a big one at Celtic Park?
No, absolutely. And I think that the best atmosphere that I've been at recently was the Celtic Falkirk game in the Scottish League Cup. And that was because Falkirk brought a sizable away support with them. Absolutely brilliant. I want to see Falkirk back in the top league, because I think they're one of the big teams that have not been doing well recently, but it seems under John McGlynn they're on the right track. 2 games in hand, I believe, over Ayr. They're level on points, the two. So for Falkirk, it's a real opportunity once they play those games in hand to really go in front of Scott Brown's Ayr United. That looks to be like an interesting title race. But yeah, it's teams like that you want in the top league, because you know that they'll bring a sizable support every time they go to Celtic Park. And I think that makes the game as well. You know, you've got your Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, Rangers, hopefully when the allocation is sorted out. Once it's sorted out between the two clubs, seemed as if it was, and then it went back on it a little bit. But after the Ibrox game, it should be some form of allocation for that game, which is good. I think away supporters make the game just as much as home supporters. You need to have that rivalry between the home and away fans. But regardless of what the attendance is for the Aberdeen fans, you know that they're going to make noise. They're going to make noise at the Hampden game as well. I wouldn't be surprised if that's very near 50-50 for Celtic and Aberdeen, due to the way that Aberdeen are playing at the moment. They might not be able to sell out that full allocation, but I think they'll definitely be offered the opportunity to, especially with the way that they're playing at the moment. They've really got behind their manager and got behind this team. So all these crowds are only a positive for Scottish football. You want to see Scottish football have the best possible light on it. And yeah, I think the fact that it's a 3 p.m. kickoff away from home as well for Aberdeen would mean that they would sell out their allocation pretty easily. I think it's going to be an exciting day next Saturday.
Looking forward to it. Plenty of chatting to do between now and then, everyone. As I said, Ryan, I'm heading off for a couple of days. You'll be holding the fort. Get some special guests on to chat about Celtic, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to be putting out the bat signal or whatnot to see if anybody wants to come on the Celtic Way. I'll be extending the olive branch, etc. Any sort of cliche, just add it in there. I'll try and get people on to talk to me about Celtic for half an hour. That should be easy. Celtic are in a good place at the moment. But yeah, watch this space for who I bring on tomorrow in the Celtic Way.
Fabulous. Right, we'll head off for now. I will chat to you all on Friday, everyone. So have a good time. Speak to you then.